Hello, Facebook people. Hey, today this year I want to start doing something new. I want to start making videos and doing some devotions about them. Hopefully, at least once a week. So I hope I can hold myself accountable to that, or whoever want to hold me accountable. I usually do devotions. I usually write them out, type them out, and I do it twofold to encourage people and also to encourage myself to help my growth and my walk. Because I never really know who reads them or whatnot the case may be, unless they make a comment and so forth. So I like to do them to mainly encourage me and those around. And this will be no different from it. So I kind of got this idea from my brother Patrick Hill about making videos. So today I want to share one, and I kind of want to take a different turn from the devotions that I usually do. They were primarily just talk about stuff that was encouraging, but they never really talked about where we were struggling, so to speak, or my struggles anyway. And I kind of want to share that. I kind of want to start picking scriptures that maybe I've struggled with or I am struggle with and talk about that to say, you know what, the struggle is real. We're not alone. I don't know how else to say it. So today, the first one I want to share is a scripture from Romans chapter 12, verse 13, and it says, share with God's people who are in need, practice hospitality. A very simple scripture. Uh, and as I start to look at this and I start to look at my life and where I was and looking at all these things and how I'm supposed to be transformed and renewed and so forth, I find myself not being that guy. I find myself, or wasn't anyway, wasn't being the one who was willing to share with God's people who are in need, wasn't the one who was practicing hospitality. And Paul goes on and he makes this case and presents that, yes, we're all sinners, we're all in need of God's grace. The only way we can get there is through faith in Jesus Christ. And God has mercy on us to chose us for this grace. And because He is the potter, we are the clay. And He chooses whatever He wants to do with each and every one of us. And He has given us mercy. He has given us newness of life. He has given us new life. And therefore, our response should be different. Our response should be different to how we live and walk out the Christian faith. And this is what he says in verse 1 of chapter 12. He says, therefore I urge you, brothers, in views of God's mercy. Now he went on and talks about this for so long. This is what God's mercy looked like. And it's clear that it's upon your life. It's clear that it's upon the believer's life this day. And he says, now that you have God's mercy, now that you understand God's mercy, he says, offer your bodies as living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Our walk change, our lives change. Our walk is not the walk of the world anymore. Now we're walking straight with Christ. Now we're living in righteousness. And what does this look like? He gives a whole bunch of examples. This looks like love, and he says, once love is permeating through your body, once you're saturated with it, then you will start to respond to people differently. He says, share with God's people who are in need, practice hospitality. And I remember a few years ago, I visited a church in North Carolina, and at this time I was still clubbing, I was still drinking, drugging, and whatever, maybe not drugging, but whatever it is I was doing. And I visited this church, and I wrote my name down on the visitors card. And some church people came to my house, my apartment one night, unannounced, rung the doorbell, and I opened up, and I still kind of remember it, kind of like it was yesterday, so to speak, even though I don't remember things from yesterday so clearly. Uh, I was shocked. I was shocked that these church people came to my house, had the audacity to come unannounced, to come give me whatever they thought was beneficial at the time. I was shocked that these people had the nerves to come in my house, to interrupt my workout, to do whatever they felt fit. And now I understand. I didn't understand God's mercy at that time. I wasn't willing to share. I wasn't willing to practice hospitality. I was dark and I was blinded. But now that I do know God's mercy, now that I do understand it, then His Word says my walk is not the same. I think one of the biggest things that I have a hard time grasping, or just understanding how it's happening in the church today, is that when we get in the church, our lives look the same as it was when we weren't outside, when we weren't in the church. Our outside life of the church looked the same inside. And Christ is saying, no, no, no. Your life needs to look totally different. Your walk needs to be totally different. And I could never get that. And so many of us today are still struggling with this idea of, man, we're living life the same way as we did outside the church. If you didn't know God, what would your life look like? Would you say it's the same as what your life looks like as when you do know God? Absolutely not, because knowledge changes us. What we know changes how we walk, how our behavior, every single thing that we do, right? And I can go into some examples for that, but sake of for the sake of time, I won't. But we need to have a life that where we can see the change in our lives. My brothers and sisters, I want to leave you with this message. I want to leave you with scripture. In view of God's mercy, respond. Respond in a loving way. For that is our call. There is no one else way. And if we were darkened, then we won't understand this because it's rubbish, it's foolishness. But now that we do have God's mercy, and that's something to be joyful about. That's something to say, I've got it. This guy who've got two thumbs and understand God's mercy. This guy, right? So I'm leave you with that. Meditate on His word. Live it out through your life. Grace and peace. Shouts out to my baby mama and my baby who is has a mama. Yeah. Peace.